Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. And I'm not even going to do her intro because everyone, if you're a longtime listener, you should recognize her. I mean, Jonquil, she's back on the podcast. Again, it's either the third or the fourth time. I think it's the third time. I lose track. I'm not going to lie, everyone. You know, you talk to so many people and they come back and on, but she's one of my favorite guests. And, you know, within 2 minutes of having her on, because we had a almost 20-minute discussion before I even turned this recorder on, just shows why she's one of my favorite guests. But yeah, she's on here to share what she's been up to since we last had you on. It's been pretty close to a year. I mean, she's placed top 5 at her last 2 competitions, which honestly, I've always said she should be one of the first or second in all these competitions, but hey, it's an improvement from where she was at. So we'll talk about that. But again, Jonquil, thank you so much for coming back on.
That's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
I ask this every single time, no matter how many times I get crap for it. What is the weather like today?
It's beautiful. Oh my gosh, the fall season, you know, it's so refreshing, but it only lasts a couple of weeks in Kansas City. So it's just like, I'm dreading what's to come because I know it's coming soon. But right now it's beautiful. 65 degrees. Yep.
I just gotta, I have to enjoy it. Like you said perfectly. I mean, I'm not even gonna talk about it anymore because just even thinking about, what's gonna be in store in December and January,
Yeah.
you
You
just
need
gotta
to live in the moment.
This is
Live
the
in the
perfect
moment.
time of the year too. I mean, I don't care what anyone says. Fall is especially in the Midwest. I mean, with the leaves falling and all that stuff in perfect weather. I had a bonfire last night, and I mean, yeah, it is perfect. So you got to enjoy it while you last. But I mean, honestly, I know you said that I say this all the time, but you've made some changes in your body. Like I can tell, you've put on some size since we last had you on. What has this last year been like for you?
It's been pretty amazing considering that I I've been wanting to place in the top 5, just because that's just one way to measure improvement, right? You can't rely just on where the judges put you because, if that's the case, you probably slit your wrists before the end of the day. But, for me, it definitely was a sign or is a sign that I'm heading the right direction. So yeah, so pretty amazing in that sense.
I mean, yeah, getting top 5s. What was that like when they announced your name and you realized, like, wow, this is? I mean, you can say that you didn't expect it, but like, it's still, it's like, I
Oh, yeah, I mean, no, it was one of those things where, again, living in the moment and just going, I'm just going to enjoy this because it may not happen again. so, it was just sort of taking it all in, um, inhaling, exhaling, and saying, okay, I'm just really going to value this moment. And it validates the hard work, but at the same time, it doesn't guarantee anything. So you just have to put your head back in the game, feet on the floor, and back to work you go. Yeah.
see that's what I like about her. She's got, even though I don't consider Missouri and Kansas to be Midwest, she has that Midwestern humbleness where it's like, it's not you. Yeah, you're like, I don't even know if I'm gonna place this well again. So I've had other guests where you get those people from New York and the West Coast where they're like, I'm gonna place this good, and it's like, well, so that's another reason I like about her. Everyone,
And,
she's
and that's
the
one.
self-depreciating Midwesterner. Yeah.
And if you can have the mindset of saying, hey, I'm going to be the champ every single time, power to you. I just know that it doesn't work for me. You know, um, it's just not my mindset. It's just not my personality. But if that is you, wow, that that's awesome. I won't judge anyone for it, and I envy that individual who can go into a competition and sort of believe that and visualize it, and if that's what it takes for them, it's great.
I root for Minnesota sports teams, so you should know ahead of time that I already am pessimistic in nature. So I know things are going to go wrong and hit the fan, but I'm just going to enjoy it while they are successful. So
Right. I'd rather go in with low
eternally
expectations,
looking for the bad things in things, and I'm trying to work on that myself.
and then but see, you go in with low expectations, and then sometimes you then are able to sort of appreciate, you know, um, performing better than you thought you would, or getting better results. But if I go in expecting better results and then I underperform, that just doesn't. It just makes me feel worse, you know.
What is
So
one area of your physique that you think you've improved on the most over this last year?
I think probably I would say my back. I think we talked about that last time, where it's sort of the Achilles heel for someone who's tall as well. So you've
We'll
got
have a
those
back
long.
comparison shot in the thumbnails that I'll use where we can see how much he's really improved then since then. But yeah, it probably is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big body part, and it's such an important and significant one in this competitive um, sport. And if it's a weak point, it's a struggle. It's a struggle, I think, for people to place well if their back isn't up there. So yeah, it's been my struggle. Ah, I have many struggles, but that's definitely one of them.
Again, I got to remind everyone the way that she looks and she says that she has struggles and stuff like that. I always kind of laugh on the inside because I'm like, oh, these bodybuilders. But again, they're competing, which leads me into a thing. I mean, we were talking about this before we started recording, and I'm going to bring it up again during this because it needs to be brought out there. We're like, I always say with these bodybuilders, they make me feel bad about myself. And I say it jokingly. Like, they don't literally make me feel like that. Well, they kind of do sometimes. Sometimes they do. But it's like people don't understand the dedication that comes behind sport where they just look at the results and they just assume that they are not worthy because they haven't been able to do that. Do you deal with that a lot on sometimes a daily basis where someone might want to look the way that you look and then they're just like, I just feel bad because I can't do it? How do you like to deal with that? Because so many people, I think, they just look at the end product of bodybuilding. They don't look at all the stuff, the intangibles that has to take place for that end look to finally happen.
Absolutely. This is not a sport for the average person. It just isn't. And I will always sort of let that person know that unless you are passionate about it, unless you have the genetics that will allow you to develop a certain way, unless you have the lifestyle that will also allow you, the finances, the discipline, all of that, this is not a sport for that person. So it's just basically being very honest with them and um, not devaluing what they can achieve, but just saying, hey, maybe you can still achieve your goals, but you just don't have to do it this way. You don't have to become a competitive bodybuilder in order to achieve a 3 month transformation. You know, this is not always the way for someone. And sometimes it is. Sometimes they're like, no, I want to do this because this is going to give me the discipline and the structure and whatever they need to achieve their goals. So it depends on the person.
Exactly, because like I'm looking at her, I'm like, I need to do a 5 million side lateral raises right now as soon as I get done talking to her right now, just so I can feel, better about
And you know
myself at
what?
least.
And that's the thing is someone could do 5 million, and guess what? Nothing. And then someone can do 10 and, they grow boulders. So,
We talked about my calves, and when I was at the show that I told you about, and I saw some of the guests I had on, I said, okay, let's just get this out of the way. And then I showed them my calves, and they got their nice little laugh in. And then I said, okay, no calf jokes now, everyone. Okay, we got. But I will say, seeing some of the guys on the show, I did have bigger calves than some of the guys that were competing there, so it made me feel just a tiny bit better about myself too. So
well, yeah, I mean, and there are definitely categories where calves aren't quite as important. You've got some of the physique, the physique category, especially in men's physique, and they wear the board shorts. They've got very conditioned and lean calves, but there's no size to their calves, and their calves are not going to make or break them as far as winning. So, yeah, you're right.
would you be more of a fan if they had the women physique and bodybuilders wear board shorts too? Because I think that would be maybe a plus then for that. Would you be more for that?
It would certainly make it interesting.
Because it does hide a little bit of your legs too, so you can kind
It
of,
does.
you
It
can get
does.
away with a little bit. Yeah, I
We
think it.
it would change. It would change everything, right? I mean, it would definitely not be the same division. You'd almost have to make it an. There'd have to be another division where we get to wear board shorts. But it is interesting where I think the women's physique, I think we are more comparable to classic men's physique. Don't you think?
Yeah, I'd say
I
so.
think that would be the division. Yeah. And so the legs are important. Um, very important, and the glutes and the hamstrings, and that's my second struggle is just getting those glutes and hamstrings really as conditioned and dry and tight as possible. So that's the next big leap.
Well, one thing that I did see at the show that I went to was the guy, his tan was melting, and I felt so bad for him. It was over his chest, and then it went to his legs too, and you can see that. Have you ever experienced any of that personally, or have you been on stage with anyone that's done that? Because me, as just the chronic sweater that I am, that's another reason why I never compete in the sport, because I sweat more than I think I humanly should. But so that, like, I I felt bad for him even more myself, knowing that like that would probably be me up there.
I I am so grateful that I haven't had to deal with that. Although I sweat a lot, but I'm lucky to have color regardless of my tan. So that's a good thing. The problem is if you're really pale underneath the tan, not a good thing. But a couple of um, competitors next to me have been in some serious situations where they've been in a position where they needed to get someone to absolutely pat them down. Um, and I could see, things starting to happen with the skin tone and all of that stuff. But if you can get a good solid tan underneath the fake tan, you can kind of get away with it a little bit.
Yeah, that
So,
ain't happening for me, everyone. So that's
if,
just again, I was just not built
no,
for this sport, everyone. So that's why I
yeah.
report on it basically, or I do interviews about it because those. Yeah, I just wasn't one of those people. But just with everything that's happened with you, with like your the changing physique, your more different results, did you change your training up at all, or have you how have you mixed things up so that you could get these better placings at these shows?
Well, I don't know if we talked about this, but sort of have coached myself over the last 8 years, and
I was going to bring that up and
um,
how insane that is to me as an outsider viewing that, but she brought up first, everyone.
and I have to say, I pat myself on the back, and I'm proud of myself for getting this far. But I did sort of finally bite the bullet and sort of said, okay, it's time to get a little outside help. So my last off season, I hired a coach, and I really feel that made the biggest difference to have another person to be able to um, support me when perhaps I would second guess myself, or whether I would start pushing myself too hard too soon. You have this other person say, hey, nope, things are okay. You're doing okay. You're looking okay. Back off, let your body recover. Um, I probably, and I know probably many athletes are like this, we don't really give ourselves a break. We don't really give ourselves a chance to recover when possibly that may be our best decision, because we're always afraid that if we do, that's going to be our worst decision, right? And so having someone else sort of take that pressure and be accountable to, I think that was probably the biggest change for me.
Was it hard though to give that up where it's like you were self-trained and like I imagine just me myself, I'd be thinking like, oh, I could probably still do this myself, but then to try to take someone else, was it hard at first to sort of be able to listen to someone else and take their advice?
Yeah, control is huge, right? I mean, we're all somewhat control freaks.
Bodybuilding is
Um,
a sport of control, yeah, basically.
yes, yes, and letting go means you have to trust that other person, and trust has to be earned, and so that takes a little bit of time. But I also, you're paying someone to help you. So unless you are ready to say, okay, I'm going to make this work, I'm going to make sure that I make the most of this, then there's no point in taking that next step. So I was pretty determined, regardless of the challenge that I knew I was going to have, to make it work. And I was just going to make sure that I did everything I could to be a good student, to be a good student. And 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 he knew, my coach knows that I had some days where I wavered, but he's such a humble person that I was able to ask him anything and everything. I was able to ask him questions. I was able to sort of double check things and say, "Hey, are you sure? Tell me why you want me to do this." Just so that I could get comfortable with him and learn to trust his judgment. And so he was very patient with me.
What, in your opinion, makes a good coach? Because I hear this all the time of people who, they might have spent a year with the coach and then things just don't work out. And then I've talked to other people where they've had a coach for like a decade. And I think it just depends person to person because it's sort of like being a teacher where it's like you could scold one student and that maybe might be the thing that they need to hear and it really changes them. You could also scold another student and then they just break down really and they're just, so it really just depends person to person. But in your own personal experience and opinion, what to you makes a coach good?
Um, just that, exactly what you said. You're right on the money. I really feel like um, the skill of the coach comes from being able to read someone and being able to understand what makes that person tick and what drives that person, how much to push them, when to pull back, understanding what kind of personality they have. Um, that I think is key because if you end up um, not pushing enough, or if you end up pushing too much and that person breaks down, then you've failed as a coach. Just that's my opinion. I know there's some coaches who believe that, hey, it's my way or the highway. That's fine too, but for me, that's just not the way I look at coaching. So
That is an incredibly rare gift, being able to read people. I mean, it's a talent, and few people have it. But I mean, yeah, for coaches, I would definitely agree with that 100%.
when they have it, they are superb as coaches. I mean, it makes the difference between an average, good, or excellent coach.
I'm too hyper
I believe.
myself to have that skill personally. So it's just for me, it's just is that person ready to go? Okay, good, go. Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
Just
good.
just I yeah,
Do it.
it really yeah. There's that. There is that.
Yeah.
So and this whole prep, has it been a longer prep than usual, or has it been the same amount of weeks? What has that
So
been?
what I was starting to do as I realized that I was sort of getting to the point where I was maximizing the tools that I had, right, and the knowledge that I had. It was just now doing more of the same, right? So it was increasing my prep time. So I went from starting with an 8-week prep to then going to a 10, to then going to a 12, and then going to a 14. I started with X amount of hours of cardio, and then I kept adding cardio on. I started with an X number of calories, and then you just keep kind of cutting those calories. And eventually you think to yourself, well, where can you go? How much more cardio can you do? How long can your prep truly be before your body just breaks down? And as now I'm the big 50, right? So I knew that I couldn't carry on this way. And uh, my coach was like, hey, I can get you ready in 8 weeks. I'm like, oh, yeah, right. Nice joke. Thanks. But that's where he stood. He's like, yeah, we can do this in 8 weeks. And I was already thinking, well, maybe we'll have to do an 18-week prep this time. He's like, what are you out of your mind? I said, well, no, because I did a 16-week prep last time and it didn't get me to where I needed to be. So now I need to add 2 more weeks. So you can see kind of the mentality that I was going in with. And he's like, nope, we have to pull you back. We have to actually give you more downtime, more recovery time, more food, all that kind of stuff. Cut your cardio down. I was doing probably at the end of my prep 9 to 10 hours a week of cardio. These last few preps, I think the most I've done is 4 to 4.5 hours of cardio. So that's been an incredible revelation to me, I have to say.
I mean, hindsight is a hell of a thing. Do you honestly look back now and be like, hey, maybe I should have just got a coach earlier with these results that I got this year?
Thanks for putting it so, how can I put it so clearly? No. um, um, I don't know. I think that obviously you can always look back and hindsight's always going to give you that 2020 vision. But I got to where I got through hard work. And that hard work, regardless whether it was necessary or not, makes you who you are. Right. So I feel like, how can I put it? I feel like I earned the right to draw back. I think I earned the right to go, okay, my body now can achieve what it needs to achieve by doing less.
Yeah, you put your time in, you paid your dues. Yeah.
And my dues paid and I'm not saying that was the only way to go. It was just the way that I did it. And hey,
This is a whole journey
you
of
learn.
exploration too. People find so many different ways. I've had dozens of different people talking about dozens of different ways that they do it. Everyone's different, and everyone, it's all about finding out It's all about figuring out
And
what works best for you.
each prep can be different too. I mean, there's no saying that each prep has to be identical. And depending on what your goals are and what you're looking to try to achieve, whether it's conditioning, whether it's holding onto your size, gaining more size, whatever, you're going to have to vary your preps. But I think the bottom line is, though, that there are certain things that your body responds to, and those things hopefully can sort of be the foundation of your prep. And once you know that, you can build on those and tweak them. So now that I know that my body is responsive with a minimum amount of time of cardio, that's a great foundation for me. And then I can go from there. So
you are eternally blessed with that then if you only need a little bit of cardio, because I've talked to the 3 hour ones where you're just like, okay, why are you even doing this sport? 3 hours is not worth it a day, or other times
yeah,
like that as well.
yeah.
But you brought
Well,
up
and
the go ahead.
go ahead. I was going to say that, the amount of stress I was placing on my body and the amount of cardio I was doing really prevented me from doing more than 2 shows a year because I was done. I just couldn't keep up that pace. And so that meant I couldn't get in front of the judges frequently enough, consistently enough. It meant that I wasn't able to really improve my placement at all, and you end up just plateauing because of that. So finding out a way to to move up the ladder without necessarily killing yourself, to me is a revelation that I will definitely use to my advantage, because I'm hoping to double my shows this year, which of course that means I have another couple that I can do. That'll be 4 shows this year. That's twice as many as I've done ever. So whether I place top 5, whether I ever get to the Olympia, whatever, I already within this year have done done more than I have in the last 8 years as far as competing.
Well, you turned the big 5-0, and again, you don't look like most 50-year-olds, so there is a positive in that. But did you come into this kicking and screaming, or what was your opinion on it? Have you, embraced the getting older? Where are you at? Where are you at this part in your life?
Well, yeah, I really don't believe in growing old gracefully. Okay, so I plan to do whatever I can to make the journey easier, because it's not fun. Everything's harder. But we have a lot of tools at our disposal. We're supposed to be wiser, and hopefully we've gained some skills and some experience, and so we can use that. And I will, trust me, I will use it. But I feel like I'm a role model, and I feel like it's important for me to sort of come at this in sort of um, a positive way, and show other women and girls who are sort of looking at this and going, wow, if she at 50 can do this, and if she at 50 is able to stand up there with all the girls, and we really can't tell each other apart up there, how awesome is that for just inspiration? And for that reason, I have to embrace it, and I have to say, okay, I'm going to make sure that I take the opportunity, and make the most of my 50s and my 60s and my 70s, wherever it takes me. So, and I look forward to it, because this is another adventure. It's another adventure. So,
and I'm collecting these like crazy. If you could have talked to, so I'm 28. If you could have, let's say, talked to your 28-year-old self, what would be one thing that you wish that your younger self knew about getting older that maybe might have helped things out?
um, time, time moves faster as we get older. It literally does. And I feel like I procrastinated a lot when I was younger, thinking I had time. I did have time, but I don't think I realized how fast time moves at a certain point, and that time waits for no one. And at 50, I'm like, wow, if I just had embraced time more and used it better. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that I hope I don't think to but I already have. I've wasted so much. COVID, let's be honest, COVID wasted 2 years of everyone's lives too. So that's a whole different subject. I'll probably get, demonetized just for even mentioning that. But hey, it's worth it, just to say that. But I mean, especially in the sport of bodybuilding, a lot of things have been changing even this last year. I mean, we talked something similar this last time. I mean, like the Arnold just canceled figure. Where do you see the current state of bodybuilding going where it's at right now? Because it just seems like there's sort of an uncertain future when it comes to women's bodybuilding.
Yeah, and I'm amazed at sort of um, canceling figure, canceling physique in certain major shows, and um, I feel like bikini and wellness now are like the most, most important
Well, look at how
divisions.
many compares they have when they show like their final results, and you look at bikini, it's like 10 pages long. And you look at everything else, it's not even like a third of a page.
Yes, and I feel that's kind of what's been happening is, these divisions are so popular and therefore financially um, so much more viable for the industry. And I think those divisions are sort of supporting the other divisions in a way. Um, so I don't see that as a good thing because I think there's a finite point to that where decisions have to be made whether or not to keep something in or throw it out. But when this is our only platform, this is it, and if they take this away from us, then we've got nothing.
You're gonna have a lot
Um,
of pissed off jacked women, so I don't know. So we'll see what
I
happens.
mean, the problem is I don't know. It's like when women's bodybuilding was taken away. I mean, no one fought for it. No one did anything about it. So I don't really hold up much hope that if those decisions were made again, that anything would come of it. Or I don't think that there's going to be this big rebellion. Um, if that were the case, I think it would have happened with women's bodybuilding time. So
It's like, look at what Arnold replaced that stuff with. They had like the slapping competition that I saw that they did or stuff like that on there. They replaced it with that type of stuff. So I don't know. I mean, maybe he's got dementia or everyone. I don't even know if he has that much control in his sports, but I don't know what's going on with that right
his
there. So
decision or not anymore, or if he's
yeah.
just a figurehead. But yeah, I don't feel hopeful. I don't feel hopeful. So um, I mean, unless somebody from the top takes control and really turns it around, I see it just continuing on like this, where just less and less shows. There'll be less and less shows for us. Kind of like we
At a
experienced
time when you've decided to do double your shows too, I might add.
yeah, at the time, yeah, just at the time that I get myself together and I can actually do more than 2 shows, I won't have the opportunity because there won't be any. So yeah, so it is right now. It's a sad affair.
I mean, yeah, I don't know myself. I don't even want to put any of that out there because then, a couple years from now, someone will message me like, "Oh, you're completely wrong about that." But I don't know what it's gonna. It could go either way. Like you said, someone could come into it
I
and.
see the reality of it is it's uncertain.
Mhm.
It's an uncertain time. Hopefully, uh, something good will come out of it, and we'll be back on track, and we'll be able to continue to showcase our art. Basically, we're gonna stay hopeful, but I'm not feeling particularly hopeful at the moment.
I just look at it this way and I tell people, just think about it. Tomorrow, someone might accidentally launch a nuclear war or something like that. So you never know what the future is going to entail for anyone. So just guessing, it's
And,
you
and
know,
in predicting and trying to, yeah, predicting, yeah, this is pointless trying to predict. But
if you
it's
talk
hard
to
to.
if you talk to the 23-year-old me and said you'd be talking to bodybuilders on a podcast, I'd say, what the fuck are you talking about? So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I'd be like, wait, what? Why would I
What?
be doing this? And then as it all, it's all, hey, it happened. So everyone, I don't know what the odds were for that, but if anyone put money on that, you'd be cashing a very valuable check right now. So there is that at least. But
The reasons, there are things happening that will lead to doors opening, to doors closing, and at this point in time, you and I were just sort of talking. You know,
like we had before, and like we always will.
Absolutely.
She'll be the 70-year-old that I still have on, and then she'll still be saying, "Oh, I look a little flat today," and I'm just like, "Okay, you're ridiculous. Just get over yourself and stuff like that." But hey, I'll live for it. But what is
Yeah.
how has business been going at the gym? Has things been going good?
Things have. picked up a little bit since COVID. Thank goodness for that. The industry, the fitness industry has changed permanently, I think. So that just means that what my club was before COVID will not be what it's like after COVID. And so I think we discussed this last time, trying to sort of go with the flow and change accordingly, and find a way to stay relevant, and stay current. So, but I'm feeling hopeful because, as I said, things have definitely improved. So
And we did a quick little gym like
we did.
tutorial video that I will show on my Patreon, everyone. So everyone, it's $1 a month that you can come on my Patreon. So don't complain about that to me, anyone. But anyways, so we went through that, and you mentioned that you sometimes do boxing because you have boxing stuff. You some do that when it's appropriate.
Great way to change up your training.
Yep. Do you do anything else similar to that like people wouldn't expect a bodybuilder to do for just training, just to mix things up?
I think that's probably my
No wood carving or anything like that.
no wood carving, no axe throwing, nothing like that. But because I've always been interested in boxing, because I've always used it as part of my training, it makes sense for me to continue to use it. It's I think I made a point of trying to keep it in my training because as a sprinter, I still love to sprint, but um,
I would pay money to see you sprint right now. I'd have a video of that to see big old John try to sprint. That would be worth a certain amount of money for me. Yeah.
like an elephant on a treadmill.
Yeah.
Yes. But sprinting is actually a very dangerous occupation for a bodybuilder, or can be. And the risk of injury is just so much higher that I don't get to sprint to my heart's content anymore. And I miss that. And so at least with boxing, it's a little safer, funnily enough. And so I can kind of keep that going without worrying about, pulling a hamstring or going muscle or whatever. So,
Do you ever look at old photos of when you were like a runner and look at yourself now and just wonder like, how did I do this? What did I do? Because like I couldn't imagine if I made that drastic a change in myself. Like, how do
yeah,
you deal with that mentally? Of like, how did I change this much?
yeah. Well, a lot of it, it's so subtle and progressive, and because I've been doing this for so long, this has not been a quick transition for me, and so it's under the radar a lot until I look at a picture. And then it's like it hits you like like a freight train, and then you realize, wow, yeah, I'm not the same little
Please
girl I
tell me
was.
you've gone back to like high school reunions and stuff like that, and then you're like, they're just like, wait, what?
Who is this person?
Yeah.
My mom reminds me every weekend that I'm not her little girl anymore. She's like, well, I don't understand. What happened? What happened to you? So she's lovely. She supports me, but she doesn't really understand it. And so she will definitely make some comments that make me kind of, just recognize the fact that she misses her little girl. But for me, it's been pretty progressive and slow and steady. So I have to be reminded through pictures. Yeah. Or else I don't see it. I don't see it, honestly.
Well, and I mean, another question that we touched based on a little bit, and it's been a question, honestly, that first of all, it shows how great of a host I've been. It took me about 500 guests before I finally came up with this question, but even I think this to myself, because like we were talking about before, how people want that bodybuilder look, but they don't want to put in the work for it. But when I talk to some of my bodybuilders and they talk about, just the dieting and all that stuff that goes on, the human nature in me just says to myself, why do they do this to themselves? Why do they put themselves through this? You can tell. I mean, I know you've already told me that you sometimes think that yourself, but like I've told my guests, just as a rule of thumb, you can tell me that you don't have that, but I'll know deep down that you're a liar, and I'll go along with it because you're my guest and I'll be respectful. But how do you deal with that whole why thing? Because I mean, I bet you still hear that all the time from people. It's like, why do you do this, Jeff? What is your why that you like to respond to that?
Well, for me, and this is personal for me. The only way that I can restrict myself and deprive myself is knowing that I won't have to. Just the only way I can do it. And by that, I mean that during off season, I allow myself to eat well And I don't mean go crazy because, obviously that's not helpful. But I allow myself to eat normally and sort of relax and um, make good decisions. But at the same time, I indulge so that when it comes time to prep, I've sort of got it out of my system and I recognize that now it's put the big girl boots on and, you know, get to work. And you can do that because you've lived somewhat of a normal lifestyle. There's no way I could do it if it was 12 months a year, every day. No,
I've
no.
met a few of those psychopaths, and that's just
That's incredible. I don't, I don't get it. I live
it's
to
like
eat.
join the military or something like that. If you have that type of dedication, it's like, what are you doing? Why are you wasting that on? No, it's not wasting on bodybuilding, but you know what I'm saying. Where it's like, why are you
Yeah,
focusing on this when you could be like the destruction of worlds, basically, or something like that? If you really, yeah,
if you really, if you put your mind to it.
yeah.
I love food, and I love taste, and I love flavor, and I love it's a joyful experience for me. So to take that away from me would, yeah, well, let's not even talk about that.
Well, I do love to torture you, so I will ask, what is the one food that you're looking forward to having the most in your off season?
Um, I'm probably looking forward to having a lot more ethnic food.
Okay.
I love Arabic food. I love Indian food. I love uh, Eastern bread. Naan bread and all of that good stuff, and um, different kinds of rice, and yeah. So I look forward to sort of bringing that back in.
Well, you fooled me because I would have never. If you'd have given me 10 guesses, I would have never guessed
That would not have been
Arabic
it.
or no. Well, first of all, my Norwegian is I can't eat spicy food really, or I just yeah, it's not a fun. Now again, if I do need to lose 10 pounds in about an hour, then I know what to do. So there's always that, everyone. But
Right,
yeah,
right.
it does not work well. I one time I mixed spicy food at a there was a wedding that I went to this summer. I mixed spicy food with alcohol and a cigar. Not a fun time.
Oh, bad
No.
combo.
Yeah, I woke up at about 4 a.m. just drenched in sweat and just yeah, I'd go to the
That would be a
bathroom
bad
and
combination for me too. By the way,
yeah.
just so you
Well,
know,
and for me,
cigar,
anyways, just
alcohol, and
drinking.
spicy food.
Yeah,
Yeah.
drinking and smoking my monthly cigar. I never do that together anyway because that's always I always either like throw up or I get like sick for like a that night really. So I never do that. Like last night I had my monthly cigar because we were having a bonfire and yeah, I made sure that I didn't drink anything at all, just or any booze at all. So yeah, there's that.
Be smart, but yeah, smart when you smart. Smart smoking cigars because cigars that's a whole nother ball game, and how that sort of combines and melds with alcohol and food.
Mhm.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
that's a layered cake there. So, but I grew up in the Middle East and Africa, so my childhood foods were um, were based on that.
I
So
don't know if you ever mentioned that. So why how you grew up in the middle? So what's the story behind that?
easy story. My father was diplomat. He worked in the foreign service, State Department. So he got to travel, so we got to travel, and we lived in these sort of interesting, fascinating, um, challenging places. But I also got to experience all the wonderful pleasures that um, they have as well.
What do you
So
think life would be like if you went back to those places looking the way that you look now? What do you think? What do you think? Because we talk about the reactions that you might get here. What do you think it would be like over in those places,
the only place that I'd be able to do that would be probably Abu Dhabi.
or
It's
Dubai
just
or something like that? Yeah,
Dubai or Abu Dhabi because they're westernized,
yeah.
but nowhere else. Be covered. It would basically be cover up all the way. Yeah,
And you just
it's
be like,
fine.
yeah, try and stop me, something like that. Yeah. So
You want to be as discreet as
yeah.
possible. You're not looking to stand out.
Oh,
You're
I'd
not
be doing most musculars in front of like everyone on the street and just be like, yeah, just I'd be just that one Western person. So best of luck on getting me to travel there. If anyone wants to say, yeah, go to so and so place, I'll go, yeah, see you there. So
Yeah.
yeah, there is that at least. But yeah, that is fascinating. I think you might have mentioned that on the first podcast, but I'm not 100% sure. So again, we learn something new, every
But glad,
single time.
glad that we can bring up some new facts. before you
Absolutely. Yeah. Because yeah, I mean, I'm about to have a guest on for like the sixth time, and I literally spent 2 hours trying to figure out, like, I rewatched some of the stuff and be like, what is the stuff that we've talked about? Because I cannot repeat the same stuff for like the 90th time right here. So I got to find
is
some,
there a new question I can ask? You know, there's
well,
something that
see,
we
because
don't.
I always do the same questions for the first guest, because it's like, if I, with my busy schedule that I already have, if I were to have to do my research on every single guest that I had on, I would go crazy. Like, I would have literally no free time. So that's why I do like the 75% of the same questions every first guest, just for my time, just so like I can be sane. So once we get to like the second, third appearance, that's when I start, really getting to, dig deep on things at least.
Branching out a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I've, been slowly trying to do. And I mean, we talked about it, like, you're not the average looking woman. We bring this up all the time, but this is a spin that I take up on that now, is out of all of the moments that you've had from people, like, there's positives and there's negatives, but is there one positive encounter that you've had because of the way that you look that really stands out above the rest, of like one encounter that you had that really just made your day? And it, like, if I were to ask you, like, what's the one moment that pops in your head?
You need to have probably given me that question before
Yeah.
the interview and given me a day or two to come up with that. Because I don't think I can sort of pick one out.
An answer that we get a lot as little kids, because those things have no filter at all. So like, that's just, yeah.
I know. I mean, it happens. These encounters with people that you would never really encounter happen quite frequently, and so they're always how can I put it? They always bring a smile to my face. You know what I mean? Anyone who feels the need to approach me to share what they feel about my body, brings a smile to my face, because that's a reaction. It's a reaction, and if someone feels strongly about it and they want to share it with me, then I'm like, okay, wow, well, I've had an effect on someone. Hopefully, it's a positive one, and not a negative one. But I can't control that. So if someone is inspired by me, if someone makes some good decisions that day because they see me, if I end up you know motivating that person to get back into the gym. Obviously, that's wonderful. I mean, who has that kind of impact on a daily basis just by being me and just walking around, you know? So every single encounter you know, makes me smile.
Well, it's story time now, everyone, because I got to share my version of that. So my first year of college, I took it to the highest extreme that I've ever come close to being a Bible, where I'm talking about, with my class schedule that I had, I always did my classes, like in the middle. I didn't do a class earlier than 10 a.m. and then I'd be done usually by 3. I would work out. So my workout thing was this. I would run on the trail. And I'm not saying cardio. I'm saying like actual running. I would do it for 45 minutes every day, actual running. So I'd probably get, like 6 or 7 miles probably in doing that. Then I would go to the bathroom and cool off for like 15 minutes because I'd be dead.
Yeah.
Then I'd go work out for a good 2 hours. And I would do this, like 5, 6 times a week. So it got to a point where my friends in high school, when I went back the summer after my first year, they came up to me and they're like, Ryan, we're concerned. Are you like on steroids or something like that? That was the biggest compliment I've ever gotten in my entire life, where I was like, you don't realize how much of my day is made by you accusing me of that. Like, it shows that I'm doing something right. So that's my moment right there. And then, as after I graduated college and learned about responsibilities and jobs and stuff like that, the muscles melted away a little bit, and I've still kept a little bit of it. But one of these days I'm going to share photos of my douche gym bro, college phase, where I was in very good shape. But again, it's all going to be from the waist up, because my lower body, we're just not even going to we're not even going to talk about that. But yeah, it was a place for that. But yeah, that is and that is it's I look back on those memories, and it's always nice to have that, where you can look back on something and take pride in the dedication that you had in that, where it's.
I mean, as I said, if they feel, if you create a powerful enough reaction where they have to sort of share that with you, and that is sort of it validates the hard work that you've done, but it also hopefully impacts them enough that maybe something changes for them too. So, two-way street.
So working in the fitness industry, I mean, you basically need to get your therapy license as well, because like when you're talking to people, you become their therapist. How do you deal with that when you're on the short straw prep, really? Because I'm sorry, like if I was that drained, I do not want to hear other people's problems. I do not want to. For me, it would just be, We're going to do our work. You're going to shut the
Yep.
hell up the entire time that we're doing this. And you're just going to, smile and laugh if you want to. But like,
Yep.
how do you deal with that on low energy? Because like, that's a whole different type of person.
But some clients are very mindful, and so they sort of not appreciate, but they understand if you're quieter than usual, or possibly not quite as engaged, and they're good with that. They get it, and they've been through it before, right? It's not their first rodeo. Um, it's really the new clients that you kind of have to sort of help understand what's going on. And however, it's not their responsibility to make you feel better. They're paying you to make them feel better, and so you have to remember that this is your job. You know, this is what you're getting paid to do. So you better do it. Yeah.
Can I just say, you would never have guessed this in a million years, but I would be the person for that, because as hyper as I am on here and as hyper as I am in real life, like when it comes to stuff like the gym and stuff like that, like I don't even talk to me. Like don't even look at me. Don't even make eye contact. Like that's my personal time where like I am out. It's not like I consider this like a role that I'm playing, but it's kind of like, how it's just human nature where you act different around different people, just like how you act different around your mom has different, how you act different from friends. It's just, we all put on masks kind of, where it's just like, just when we're talking, my in the gym is like when I don't have to wear like the super hyper. Now, naturally, I'm a very hyper person, but like that's when I can sort of take off the mask and be like, okay, this is my time. That's why like every day after school, because I was being that hyper, I would come to my room for like half an hour and just say nothing. That's like my de-stress, where it's like, okay, this is my me time to, sort of do that. And then my mom would knock on the door and I'd be that mom. I'd be that kind of kid and stuff like that, where so there's that, but it's a whole different story
You're
for
right.
me.
Absolutely, is that when you have your clients, you do your job, and then you create some downtime so that you can sort of charge yourself, because you have to have. I'm not a particularly extroverted person, so it takes energy and effort for me to be that. I don't. It's not that I don't enjoy it. It's just it takes effort, and so I do need to recharge my batteries by sort of just being alone, by myself, and regrouping. So I have to schedule that time in to to make sure that I get that.
That's similar because I'm like sort of that old school Midwestern where like if you haven't been introduced to a person, you don't ever like, once I get introduced to you, then it's game over, where you're like, oh God, why did I ever do that? Because this kid's just talking about. But like if I have never met you, like I'm not that type of extrovert where like I'll just come up to you and talk, where it's like, oh hey Ryan, come meet this guy, and then it's like, okay, yeah, it's game over. You shouldn't have done that, because now I have permission to like just everyone. Yeah, like let's be honest, everyone. I'm done talking to her, and that's my second podcast of the day. I've done 4 in one day, and I was still good to go afterwards. Now, Grant, I was very tired, but hey, there is that. But I mean, so what show are you currently getting ready for?
So this is going to be Reno. This is going to be a Legion Fest in 2 weeks. So October 7th. So
Oh wow, that's coming up there. She's 2 weeks
yeah.
out. Yeah. So where are you at right now on your diet? Like, are you just eating breadcrumbs right now? No, I'm just joking. But like, where are you at right now?
No, we're
First of all, breadcrumbs are carbs, so I got that wrong in the first place anyway. So
and this is where people kind of sometimes don't realize that everybody um, may use a slightly different sort of carb reduction protocol with their prep. Some bodies don't process carbs well at all, right? Um, I'm one of the lucky ones. Carbs sort of work well for me. So I've tried it both ways. I live the keto lifestyle, and I love that lifestyle too. But I also know that carbs work well for me when I'm actually in prep. So I keep the carbs in, relatively until maybe the last week or so, maybe peak week, I bring them down a little bit. So I don't get to that point where I'm on zero carbs. Now, remember, I've had time to practice that. I've had time to do that, to do a few of those preps.
learn
I'm
from
like,
our mistakes. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, done that, been there, and realizing that I don't have to do that. That is not necessary for my body, because what happens, you listen anecdotally to other people and other physique athletes, and you go, okay, well, I guess if it works for them, I'll try it. And you finally kind of learn that maybe not everything works the same way for everybody. So we now know that carbs for me are pretty important until the last possible moment. Yeah. So the calories get cut, absolutely, but the carbs don't go down to zero. So
That's different than what I've heard.
yeah,
So yeah.
I probably, I mean, I don't know if you want, I don't know if it makes sense if I give you sort of percentages or grams. What makes sense?
Go ahead. I won't know what you're talking about, but hey, maybe someone out there will. Yeah, go ahead. No, seriously, yeah, do it. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I probably, will stay at around 150 grams of carbs, until peak week, and then I'll drop to my low will be probably 75 grams, so.
I'm just nodding my head and pretending like I know, what you
Okay,
exactly saying.
and go continue
Yep.
to nod. Yes, but yeah, there'll be someone out there who'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So.
I've never measured my food at all. Where it's just I am just one. If it looks good, I'll eat. Now again, I know like when I'm full and stuff like that. But yeah, again,
You don't need a measure unless you're trying to make some changes.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Well, and it's like for me, I'm one of those people where it's like if I just need to lose weight, I'll just run for a month basically and stuff like that, and then just
Or you probably have to take out, you probably take out take one thing out of your diet, and it would happen like that.
Well, one thing that I've actually I have lost like 5 pounds. I didn't need to lose 5 pounds, but I did because I used to drink Gatorade a lot, like after workouts and stuff, but I bought they're like those little flavored powders where they're only 10 calories that you put in water.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's made a change because Gatorade's normally like 140 calories or something like that, like a bottle.
And think about it, you drink 2 or 3 of those a day.
Yeah. And then, so yeah, instead of you're saving like 400 calories basically like a day then basically. So yeah, that's just a little change that I made right there myself. I'm not sponsored by them, but I wish I was because then I could get like a lifetime supply of them or something like that. So I'm just going to shout out there, maybe one of these days, it will happen. But 2 of the questions that I've asked you every single time you've come on, and I will continue to ask you every single time you come on, if you could change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
And my answer is kind of still the same. I'm sorry. I thought maybe I'm trying to get something, but I would probably make the judging criteria and the judging process a little bit more transparent.
Yeah, instead of like having those where they just talk to you about it later on, it's like I actually want to wish that they would like film like behind the scenes, like them doing their actual stuff and just like.
I mean, yeah, just like have something that's a little less subjective and have some of the criteria. Conditioning equals X amount of points. Symmetry equals X amount of points. Have it just a little bit more delineated so that we can understand a little bit better. And then, if one show or if women's physique division, shouldn't be super conditioned, then one show can't have someone who's, so dry, so striated as the winner. And the next show, you have someone who's, less conditioned and smoother. And to me, that just confuses everything. And then the audience and the participants, we just don't know which way to go. And so therefore it affects our training, it affects our mindset, it affects so much of the sport when the judging isn't consistent throughout all shows, whether it's East Coast, West Coast, doesn't matter. So
when I'm just thinking about like the places that you got before this last year, did you wrong someone like early on in life that like maybe this is mojo or something like? Because honestly, again, this is a joke, everyone. But like, I don't understand. I'll continue to message her even after the show, even if she gets first place. I'll be like, okay, finally, it took them long enough to finally realize that or something like that. Like I'll figure out something. But when we do have you on in a year from now, and I mean, we're gonna keep having you on, like I said, until one of us drops dead. Who knows when that's gonna be? But
that's right. We can't predict. We can't predict.
We can't predict. Yeah, I could have my fatal heart attack, tomorrow or something like that. Which, hey, 28 going out like a stud. That would be the way to go. But anyways, never mind. Never mind that. But when we do have you on a year from now, knock on wood, where would you like to be at in your bodybuilding? Where would you like to be at just in your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved when we have you on a year from today?
Obviously, it would be nice if I actually managed to get to the O. Okay, so that would be number one. If I can do that by winning a pro show, that'd be awesome. If not, I'll take points. whatever. Um, and
Well, hang on. Do you know if anyone has ever gotten to the Olympia from just taking points and actually ended up winning it? I don't know if I've ever like. Has that
uh,
ever been a case? No. Yeah.
no, no. So yeah, there's your answer there. Um,
Because then I
I,
want what they're on. Then if they were able to go there on points and then all of a sudden show up at the Olympia and win it all. Yeah.
unless it was, again, miraculous, you know,
Yeah.
run.
Unless the person that finished ahead of them in every show got like the flu or something like that, like the day before. Maybe that's like the only scenario I could really honestly think of it like that.
Exactly. Um, I want to obviously still be healthy and still sort of be able to perform as far as in the gym. So I'd like obviously not to incur any more injuries and to keep those old ones at bay. Um, I'm hoping, if possible, it'd be great if business wise I could actually end up owning my own building. That'd be very cool. So may look at that in the next year. So that'd be a huge, huge, big step. So yeah, that does it.
And I mean, I forgot to ask this, but you did mention before that like your back was. What did you train differently for back to get it to take off? Because I don't think we went into that. Because for me, like I said, my back was naturally just genetically built for me, so I don't understand. Like, oh wait, you don't have a good. So what did you do for your back?
Really, it was a case of the change in the cardio. Okay, helped me preserve a lot of the muscle that I was building but was losing. So it was this constant battle of me doing just way too much cardio for my back, basically. So any gains I did make, I proceeded to lose. So by keeping that cardio low, I noticed that I was able to keep a lot of that back mass that I just hadn't been able to do. So I think that was probably one of the main changes there. And then just trying to continually, sometimes you train something too hard and you overtrain it. And remember, I sort of mentioned to you that I wasn't giving myself permission to back off and give myself recovery, and probably ended up overtraining at the same time. So
Someone comes up to you and says, "I want to get into the sport of bodybuilding." What is the one piece of advice that you would give them just to because like bodybuilding, most people don't know what they're getting into. Let's be honest, when they get into the sport. So, what's the best piece of advice that you give for someone who's just looking to just get into the sport?
Alan, I think just make sure you do it for the right reasons. Understand why you're doing it. Obviously, the right reasons for me versus the right reasons for you are going to be different. I can't tell you what your reasons are. Just make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. I think if you don't, I think it can be very unhealthy and not the best sport for everybody.
Oh, you have to have like a tunnel vision. You have to have a certain type of mindset because yeah, this is a sport where it is not meant for people that have issues and
No,
well,
no,
obviously everyone has issues, but I mean like
we
people
all
that
have
have
different
their
stuff,
own
and a
yeah
lot of us
different types.
have issues.
Oh,
But
you're telling me I've had to talk to you guys. Okay, come on now. I've seen this from
you
first.
know
No,
more
I
than
know,
most.
but yeah.
But you're sacrificing, relationships. You're sacrificing family time. You're choosing to live a lifestyle that's extremely obsessive compulsive and so on, and very narcissistic in a way. So yeah, so you have to do it. If you don't do it for the right reasons, then it's not worth it. It's not worth it at all.
And lastly, before we wrap things up, body dysmorphia. We haven't talked about this before, but it's like I find that to be the funniest thing about the sport for as an outsider. Because, like I said, I talked to some of you guys, and you talk about like how like let's be honest. The moment you become a bodybuilder, you should almost have to sign a contract that says like, okay, you're never going to be big enough now. Just accept that and move on. But how do you deal with that personally? Because like seeing that as from an outsider's point of view, like I said, it's funny to me because I'm like, these are the most in shape people on the planet, and they're telling me that, like they aren't good enough, and it's like, okay, you're ridiculous. But again, it's because you're up on stage against other people that are ridiculously like in shape as well. But how do you deal with the whole body dysmorphia?
Um, I don't know if I have. I don't think I've found a solution yet. I think it's a constant. I'm always working on it. I'm always trying to cope better with it. I think there are times when I cope that I cope better, and the times that I don't cope as well, depending on the stresses in my life, right? Things that are going on. But you have to put bodybuilding into perspective. I try to remind myself that I am not just a bodybuilder. That's not who I am. That I have a whole life outside of bodybuilding, right? That's that's more important. That's more valuable. And making sure that I remember um, that without bodybuilding, I'm still good enough.
That's one thing that I've talked to a couple people that have either just like retired from the sport or haven't done it for a while. That's one thing that they do struggle with, because when your whole life you think that you're just a bodybuilder. That was like me with baseball too, or when I stopped, or just being an athlete in general. When I stopped that, it's like, what do I do now with my life? Like, what do I? So yeah, that's myself.
Yeah, you have to get back to your roots and say, hold on a minute, you know what? Um, I'm more than my biceps. You know,
As a gym bro,
uh,
that's not true for me, but yeah, that's all I live by. That's our communication. Yeah, let's be
that's it.
honest.
That's it. You know, it's the biceps, and that's all we really need are just some good biceps.
That's all
But
you need.
you get caught up in that, and you have to step away from it, and you have to sort of do some, you know, digging and remember sort of your friends and your family, and you obviously hopefully have another other roles in your life that um, that make you who you are, and just kind of getting back to that sometimes, and taking breaks from bodybuilding, and I think is also very healthy. Sort of with it a little bit intentionally, saying I'm going to put, like social media, right? Sometimes you guys take breaks from it.
And that's exactly why I still do this podcast and love doing it, because like these people are more than their bodies really, and that's why I love talking to them. Because like otherwise, if I were to just do this, I wouldn't have started this podcast in the first place and just went to some bodybuilding shows. Where again, that's not my crowd necessarily, but like that is what I would do basically. But it's like no, I just like, because they're human beings just like everyone else, and they just have stories to tell, and they're more than just what they are and stuff. So, or I mean, they're more than just their bodies basically. So that's why that's a message
And
that I
you
love to
help,
spread out as
and
well.
you help, with sharing our journeys. That's how people find out that we are more than
And
just
then we do
that person.
thumbnails, and then we do thumbnails at the end, and they embarrass me. So that's it. I
And they
put
get
up with them
there
for
we go.
now. I
Then we
put
do
up with
then we do
them.
the biceps. Then we do the
Yeah.
biceps again.
I'm on good terms with them, and then we do thumbnails, and then I hate them. So then hey, so that's why I never start out doing thumbnails before we record. But that's why I save it for the end there, so that at least like I can enjoy them for a while before then I'm just like, okay, they're ridiculous. But
Well, there is a love-hate relationship there.
absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, before we get into that, so we gotta get in. But anyways, Jonquil, I cannot thank you enough for coming on. Like before, everyone go and check out her Instagram. I'll leave a link down before. You will get. I mean, she's 50 years old. Everyone, I don't understand how it's possible. Everyone, I mean, that's just to show what a genetic freak she is, and also the dedication in the sport as well. You got to add those two together. But I mean, again, thank you so much for coming on and for embarrassing me as well, in a good way.
Well, I will hopefully, continue to be able to embarrass you for many years. And I thoroughly enjoy being on the show, and keep doing the good work.
I appreciate
Okay?
that. Well, everyone, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.